Network transformation through using cloud-native software and technologies also requires CSPs to simultaneously address operations transformation. If they neglect OSS, BSS transformation when deploying new network capabilities, they risk future complications. Joining me now to discuss how we should perhaps rethink OSS, BSS for cloud-native operations are Ken Mawbey, VP of Product Marketing at Zephyrtel, Mark Newman, Chief Analyst at the TM Forum, and joining from Las Vegas is Satish, Kale, Principal Solutions Architect for Middleware at Red Hat. Gentlemen, thank you all for joining us on TelecomTV. Let's test our hypothesis first, shall we? Mark, I'll ask you, in all the excitement surrounding network transformations, are we neglecting OSS, BSS systems?
I think it's not so much neglecting OSS, BSS as ensuring that OSS, BSS is conducted relatively close to or simultaneously with the network transformation. And I think within the telecoms organization, network often has a higher profile than the IT function. Sometimes the IT function is separate from the network function. And so I think there are cases that we've seen where network transformation strategy does tend to move more quickly than OSS, BSS. And that, I think, is when you're storing up problems and where we would say you actually should be looking at transforming the two in tandem.
Ken, do you see a problem with the prioritization here?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that in terms of that they should be done in tandem. So Zephyrtel, as you know, provide OSS, BSS solutions into telcos. And we certainly see that telcos are slow to adopt that in terms of versus other industries, which is, I'm sure, down to their background of having spent tens, hundreds of millions investing in their own infrastructures. So they are behind the curve, I think, in terms of, because certainly behind the network transformation.
The whole issue around cloud native for telcos is a complex one, and even coming up with a definition is complicated. There's many assumption ideas about what cloud native can do or how to apply cloud native technologies and methodologies. Looking specifically at OSS, BSS, where do we think that cloud native could help?
I think the closer you are to the customer, the closer the technology, the application to the customer, the more I think there's a case for making technologies cloud native. The more there's requirement for elasticity, for flexing up, for flexing down. If you're launching a new brand, a new service, then I think there's a real case for using cloud because of its inherent benefits in terms of elasticity, scalability, if you want to trial new stuff out there. So I think some of the hard legacy billing functions probably sits fairly near the back of the queue. But I think anything that's, say, customer-facing and new is ripe for cloudification.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that in terms of the benefits of cloud. The flexibility and performance and TCO savings are all obviously very important. But I think it's in terms of migrating to public cloud services like AWS, etc., where they're actually providing kind of out of the box AI and ML functionality, that's a very powerful thing in terms of telcos, because telcos, obviously they've got a vast amount of information from their consumers. Churn is a huge problem for telcos, so they need to basically react to a situation where a customer may churn. So by using predictive analytics, they can look at every aspect of the customer behavior, calls they're making, data they use, etc., and then tie that in and linking back into billing, where they can actually proactively create a personalized rate plan for that customer to stop them from churning. And I think and once you've got these services in the cloud and you've got a huge data lake of information, to be able to just mine that for that information is a very, very powerful thing. I think that's definitely one of the benefits of moving to a public cloud where that type of technology is obviously very well established and you're not reinventing any wheels. So.
And Satish, if I can turn to you, where do you think cloud native technologies can play a role within OSS, BSS? Are there any specific areas?
The areas in which cloud native can definitely help OSS BSS is in those services that these OSS BSS applications provide, which are much closer to the end users, business oriented, which need to be developed at a faster pace from idea to the actual production rollout. If those are the pressing concerns, if there are scalability concerns, like they need to scale up very rapidly, maybe a particular iPhone launch or something which gets in a huge amount of demand, you want to really balloon up in elastic way. That is where cloud technologies, cloud native development can help you develop faster, scale it up, provide high availability, service availability sooner. So making those choices about those OSS BSS apps which are closer to the end user and which have high demand and fluctuating demand for on the user demands.
And Ken, are we seeing any examples within the telecoms industry today?
So I think, Verizon last year announced that they're moving all their business applications to AWS, and then I think July AT&T moved to Microsoft Azure. So I think that they're definitely the more advanced than other telcos. But yeah, I think that's.
And Mark, what are you seeing from the TM Forum?
So I think some operators are launching their own brands and their digital-only brands. And the attraction of launching a new brand is everything that BSS can sit within the cloud. So examples are Visible, which is a new Verizon service. So these are like operator-owned MVNOs, if you like. They're their own brands. There's Fizz, which is Videotron in Canada. There's Flex, which I think is Orange Poland. There's Roxy in the UK. And the reason that operators often are doing this is because it can be pretty challenging migrating legacy systems to the cloud. So part of the thinking here is that if you launch a new totally cloud-native, cloud-based brand, over a period of time you can then shift your legacy business into that new business, rather than having to effectively manage a hybrid old technology on-prem and cloud-based system.
And Satish, can I ask you about advice to CSPs? How should a service provider go about rethinking their OSS BSS systems for agile cloud native operations?
The biggest advice I would give is really don't think it is a revolution, it's an evolution. So any architecture, whether you're using microservices, whether you're using container technology, you're using cloud specific solutions provided by individual cloud provider, think in terms of not next 3 years or 5 years, but really to 15, 20 or beyond. From that point of view, build layer by layer your solutions, which are open to integrate, open to work along with any new solutions, new technologies, new runtimes. So all those choices will come in. From that point of view, keep the architecture open, keep the choices of technologies open, so that you use best of the breed technology for whatever functionality you require, but at the same time they all work in a harmonious manner, rather than you are creating a new legacy of multiple proprietary stuff running as a black box with no visibility and no chances of doing future modifications.
Great. And Ken, what's Zephyrtel's advice to CSPs?
I think in terms of having a strategy. So I think a fair few telcos, in fact probably the majority, don't have a clear strategy in terms of cloud migration. Obviously that takes time. It's certainly not an instant thing. It's a medium to long term. We see interesting. We're talking about 5 years. There's a typical sort of timelines to get that right, and obviously there's a lot of planning and strategy and clearly getting the right partner, which clearly we hope would be Zephyrtel. But I think that's the important thing, is actually to, as Satish says, to keep it open. You want to build it once, and then reuse that investment for the next 10, 15 years. Absolutely, yeah.
Long term then, Mark?
Well, I think the point you make about having a strategy and a vision is a very important one. And certainly, I think from TM Forum perspective, we don't see enough operators saying this is our strategy, this is our vision, and our technology needs to fit into that strategy and vision. Maybe that's why we're at where we are today, which is some not necessarily muddled thinking, but a fairly slow evolution. And so I think, what do you need to embark on this? You need a strategy, you need a vision, you need a reference architecture for how you're going to move forward. You need to embrace concepts such as microservices, APIs. You need to own your technology roadmap yourself. So maybe this is a key point here, which is you need to own it yourself, because if you continue to put that roadmap in the hands of maybe an existing supplier, that's not necessarily going to be your roadmap. So you need to own it. And then once you've owned it, you can then bring in technology partners as and when you need them, rather than having that roadmap managed by someone else.
Yeah.
You agree there? Own it yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's very important to have that strategy and that vision and that planning. Yeah, absolutely.
And are we surprised, perhaps, and Mark, you've both been working in the industry for quite some time. Are we surprised that telcos don't or are not seen to participate in the cloud world and the cloud native development world as much as perhaps they ought to?
My feeling is we shouldn't be surprised. I think because telecoms support so many digital businesses, it enables the internet. We make the assumption that telcos should be modern, digital, cloud-embracing organizations. Do we expect banks to be like that? No, we don't expect utilities to be like that. And telcos as organizations, they've been structured the way they've been structured for 20, 30, 40 years. They've got systems and technologies going back 20, 30 years. We really shouldn't be that surprised. And I think the other thing we need to be aware of is that their revenues are often flat today. So you can't simply go out and invest hugely in new systems and capabilities, because you're investing within a certain financial constraints. So I think it's careful that we shouldn't really beat operators over the head about this, because in many ways they do feel straitjacketed. I think it goes right back to what you were saying, which is it comes from the very top of the organization and saying, this is what we're going to do. We believe in cloud native, and having the board support every decision that falls in behind that strategy.
Yeah. So, Kevin, we need to cut them some slack.
Yeah. Well, I think, obviously it's a tough market for telcos. I mean, if we think, if you think about your mobile phone contract 10 years ago, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm probably paying exactly the same as I was 10 years ago. Yeah, we've moved from 3G to 4G and now 5G, and we're all expecting, to download, not just download videos without buffering, but 4K videos now. So there's a real, consumers want more and more, but are not prepared to pay for that. So there's a big pressure on telcos to actually find the money to invest in these new technologies. So I think in terms of realizing the benefits of total cost of ownership, moving a lot more to cloud native services will allow them to free up cash, capex, to invest in these new technologies, because otherwise who's paying for the whole thing, basically? Yeah.
And Satish, the final question to you then, following up from this, is should we do more? Do we need to do more to help the service providers, the telcos, to become more invested in cloud native and understand and contribute to its development?
Well, absolutely. I mean, this is, as mentioned multiple times, this is a very critical phase. Okay, the competition, the demands from the customer are increasing. And in fact, there's a pressure to put prices even much more lower. In that particular context, okay, instead of owning your own data centers and all of that, majority of the operations are going to go cloud. And that is where their existing setup is not ready for cloud. So making that setup ready, okay, whether it is OSS, BSS applications or general enterprise IT, because even if the OSS, BSS vendors modernize their individual applications, or a customer on its own starts from the scratch building cloud native applications, the underlying enterprise IT needs to support that. So from that particular point of view, providing, like Red Hat is heavily involved into the cloud adoption or a hybrid cloud adoption, because they don't want to lock in with the one single public cloud provider. They may want to have multiple choices. So using technologies, container-based technologies like OpenShift, we help our customers, whether it is all the big customers like AT&T, or we are talking about Telefonica, Bell, TELUS. All of these organizations we are working, we are helping them devise the architecture which is infrastructure agnostic, but at the same time agile enough and fast enough for them to deliver those services with higher density and extract as much as possible from whatever low footprint of cloud setup they're going to procure.
Satish, thanks so much indeed for joining us from Las Vegas. And Ken and Mark in the studio, thank you all very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.